Hey everyone, welcome back to Twin Talks Ballet. My name is Kirsten if you're new, and this is my good friend Hannah Bettis. Hannah used to be a professional dancer with the Boston Ballet. She was a second soloist, and we've also just filmed 2 other videos together.
Yes, we did.
So you better check those out if you hadn't already. We talked about what it's like to transition away from dance and, figure out what it's like to be a normal person, as a lot of dancers tend to label that life. And then we also talked about her journey through her training and kind of being on more of a fast track in her career. At least that's what a lot of outsiders look at your career, and that's what many people thought. So be sure to watch those videos if you haven't already. But for now, today we're going to talk about what it was actually like to be inside of a high-level professional company, because Boston Ballet is one of the world's top companies. It's big. It's very much like, there's probably a lot of pressure and a lot of things that simply other, even professional dancers like myself can't understand, because even though I did train at Houston Ballet, I wasn't in the company. Like, I could be in rehearsals, but I wasn't like a company member. So today we're going to get into what was it really like to be a professional dancer in a world-class company. I'm going to ask you plenty of questions, get some insights, and just kind of get an insider's view. Hey you guys, I just want to quickly pop into this video to talk to those of you who are injured. And if you're not going through an injury right now, still listen up. Maybe you can tell your friends about what I'm about to share with you. So if you are going through an injury, are you just feeling lost, feeling alone, feeling misunderstood, worrying about if you're pushing yourself enough or not enough? You're maybe feeling overwhelmed and confused and wondering if you know enough to really actually have hope in a strong recovery. I completely understand that recovery is not a linear process. It is confusing at times, isolating, frustrating, and scary. And so I have designed actually an online program called the Come Back Stronger course, specifically to guide injured dancers like you through the recovery process, giving you all the strategies and support and community you need to make a strong recovery, both physically and mentally. So in this program, you're going to get guidance through answering all of the questions that tend to come up for dancers, like, okay, what are the do's and don'ts of recovery straight away, so you don't have to learn the hard way and slow down your process like a lot of people like myself have done in the past. You're going to learn how to navigate the social aspect of the injury. You're going to learn how to talk to your teachers, your doctors, so that you can not only advocate for yourself, but you can have doctors and teachers advocating for you in the process. There's a whole module on how to care for your body, how to have a healthy relationship with yourself and with food, as well as a whole module on mindset, how to deal with the emotions, understandably the tough emotions that come up in the process, how to resolve the negative emotions while staying appropriately positive. There's training on how to remain confident while you're not able to do what you're used to doing, as well as a whole module on getting back in the studio and learning how to goal set appropriately, understand your body's signals, and learn how to set really healthy boundaries so you know that you're pushing yourself enough to improve, but not so much that you knock yourself back in the recovery process. So if this sounds like it would be of tremendous value to you, which I know it will be, go ahead and click the link down below to the comebackstrongercourse.com, and that's where you'll be able to learn all about what this value-packed program includes, including a Facebook page where you get to connect with other dancers going through the recovery process with you. So click the link down below. That's where you'll be able to learn all about the course and sign up. I can't wait to see you in this program, and I can't wait for your success story at the end of it. All right, guys, thank you for watching this little clip, and let's get on with the rest of the video. Going straight in.
Okay.
What were some of the hardest parts about being in a top company?
Especially in the beginning as a core dancer, I think just the pressure of, you would obviously have your normal core spots, but then if someone went out or something and you'd have to be able to go into another spot, I think that was something that was hard. And I think that there's a little bit more pressure on you to perform well already being in the company. It's not like you're a student getting thrown in or someone else being thrown in. Like, you're already like a paid position, fully contracted, like dancer who's expected to get on stage, perform, and know what you're doing even if you don't.
Right.
So that was
so
something
different, just getting that element of the paycheck.
Yes.
You know, because
you're getting paid to do this. Like, we are paying you, so you need to know what you're doing.
Oh my gosh, exactly. Yeah, because like in your training, you are held to very high standards, but there's still that like kind of emotional level or that thing you can remind yourself of like, well, they're not paying me to do this on a really hard day.
Yep.
But you kind of are being paid to do it.
Yeah, like they're literally like they're paying you to do it, so you like have to. It's like
on top of ballet being really hard, there's that other layer of responsibility.
Yes.
What are the most rewarding parts of the job in your opinion?
One of the best parts about working for Boston Ballet and like being in a bigger company is that like our rep was incredible. Like we got to dance some amazing ballets. I mean, I got to work with like William Forsythe and John Newmeyer and all these different choreographers that are like amazing.
Yeah, they're like
women.
gods.
Yes, literally. And so it was like that was something that I was really like appreciative of and grateful for.
Man,
some
that
amazing
sounds
minds.
like a dream.
Yeah.
Now I'm really curious to just learn more about kind of the mental aspect of being in a top company. And so especially since you got to work with people that are, you know, world class, and you are world class as well. Like, let's not forget that that's also Hannah. But what, in your opinion, sets apart a dancer mentally, like a good dancer from a great dancer? What are some of the mindset
that's a good question.
Traits that you see?
Having a sense of humor is actually really important.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, especially for people who I think like the greatest dancers are really driven, hardworking, obviously, and but they're able to, at the end of the day, like not let it get too much. Yeah, because it's so easy to start feeling like you're suffocating in ballet. Yes, and I think that some of those people, some of the greatest dancers that I saw when they walked away, although they still would like live the lifestyle of a ballet dancer and like would still do all the PT and all the physio and like the ice baths and all that kind of stuff and take care of themselves in that way, they also mentally would like step away from it a little bit, even if physically they were still in it. I think that's super cool to kind of even like question how can dancers in their training start to incorporate more of that just to be healthier. Yeah, I feel like that's something I recognized I had to do early on, and even though it definitely, I had to learn a good balance. Like when I was training, I recognized that sometimes a coping mechanism of mine would be to laugh too much or to make light of a situation too much in order to deal with like some pain I was going through internally. But I think that's really insightful for anyone, no matter what point you're at in your journey. Ballet can become really suffocating and overwhelming. And so maybe ask yourself, how can you set boundaries in place to kind of leave the studio behind when you do go home at the end of the day? Or how can you maybe have internal or external laughter like in the studio to kind of remember like, hey, this is something you love to do and you can have fun with it. And in fact, maybe that fun can make you a better artist. Exactly. Yeah. So no one likes to watch a dancer dance who's like not enjoying themselves. Yeah. Right? Intention. That was something that I noticed like a big difference were different intentions. And you can really see what a dancer's intention is when they're performing something. And like, so a lot of the principals I got to see like, and maybe also I'm a little like biased because I knew them closely by the end, but like it was interesting to see like different interpretations of things and the way in which they were able to move with the intention, even in like a storyless ballet. Right. So I thought that was like something that you can really see on stage, even if there isn't like a storyline being told. It's not Sleeping Beauty or it's not a classic, but it's like abstract, and you can still see the intent behind it. I thought that's the thing. It's like they're engaging their imagination. Yes. And it kind of reminds me of something that I think everyone can learn from, no matter what point you're at. It sounds like people who use their imagination or take the time to ask what intention they want to put into their class, their rehearsals, the role they're playing, even like your grander intentions for your career. If you just take a moment to consider that, I think you're automatically stepping more into the role of an artist and not just a dancer who like comes in to basically exercise and like put their body in certain positions. And the more you embrace that power of choice and personal intention, the more I think you get to know yourself as an artist and as a person. You start to have a healthier relationship with ballet. You embrace your power to choose. You're probably going to get to know more of like who you are as a unique
artist and not just like comparing yourself to the sea of other dancers that look like you.
Yes.
I make a lot of videos about this one question or trying to answer this one question. So, what are some aspects of the career that you would like to encourage aspiring dancers to like really prepare for and consider before they're just like, I want to be a professional dancer?
The cost. I mean, you give up everything to do it. And for some people, it's totally worth it.
Yes.
100%. But totally. I like to make sure everyone is forewarned in advance that you will give up everything for it. And that's something you have to be prepared to do. And I think, I don't mean to feel like it sounds so heavy. I think that it can be encouraging, especially if you love it. And it really is something you want to give your life to. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I did it.
Yeah.
But it is something that you have to be like prepared for. Because I wish more people had told me going into it. I mean, everyone told me like it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of control. It takes a lot of perseverance. It takes a lot of this and that. But no one told me that like you also have to prepare to give up a lot of your social life and a lot of your relationships. And you have to be prepared to put ballet first in everything.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something I wish people had told me more. Because I thought like once I'm in a company, it's not just my training. Once I'm in a company, I'll have a social life. It'll be totally separate. It's like I can make up for lost time, but it's not actually like that.
That's so interesting that you bring up kind of that, I think that misconception a lot of aspiring dancers have, that once you get in a company, ballet can suddenly stop occupying your whole life.
Yes.
Like you don't have to give it everything anymore because you've made it.
Yes, and that's not true.
But everyone says, oh, you never make it. And so it's like we hold these two platitudes simultaneously in our minds and they do conflict.
Yes.
You can't just turn that off. You will still continue to leave the studio and, like you said, put ballet first. Ballet kind of has to become your number one value or priority.
Yes.
And that is where, like, if you start to consider how that might influence your life and your decision-making process, it will be significant.
Yeah.
Like missing weddings, funerals, birthdays,
all of that,
graduation ceremonies. You have to be willing to put that aside. And it's not necessarily going to be a miserable thing if ballet is really that worth it to you. But do consider, is it that worth it to you?
Yes.
And also recognize that you do have the ability to have ballet as a part of your life in a very meaningful way outside of the professional context.
100%.
So I feel like a lot of dancers who are young, they can listen to the question I just asked, like, would it be that worth it to you? Do you love ballet enough to make it the number one priority? And they might be like, yes, because they don't consider how many other paths they can take with dance. Like, it's not either or.
It doesn't have to be so singular.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do have a couple friends who have figured out the work-life balance with ballet, but they still have to put ballet first. So it's not that it can't be done, but it takes a lot more effort.
Right.
And but they still show up every day and work super hard.
Right. What are some current problems that you see within the ballet industry that you would like to see resolved?
Okay, this is a good question.
I know.
I like this question.
I like the deep stuff.
I think the biggest thing I'd like to see resolved is a culture. I mean, for me, there's a lot of groupthink. There's very like everyone, since you're with the same people day in and day out, you're always working together. You basically do life together too outside the studio. Like it's not just in the studio. So when one person gets super negative, it's very easy for everyone to become that way.
Totally.
And I think that is something that I would like to see different. But I also think that comes from an underappreciation of the dancers. Like I think I think the staff does the best that they can, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, they try their best, but I also think that a lot of times dancers have a tendency to feel underappreciated, undervalued, like they're not seen, like they aren't people, like they're just what's being sold. And in a lot of ways, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, you are the product. The dancer is the product. Like, you're selling live art, and you happen to be the art. Like, that's really what it is. And I think that that's something that I would like to see change is the way that dancers are treated, the way that they're respected, the way that I think that there should be more of an effort made even on the dancer's behalf to the greater public about what it is that we actually go through to get to where we are. Because I think that there's a big misconception too from like dancer to audience member that oh, this is like fun and cute and nice and whatever, when really like I said before, you give it up, you give everything up to do this. Ballet is your first priority. And so for someone to kind of look at it and be like, oh, that was nice. I think that I wish that there was a greater effort there as well. So that there was a more, a better, well-rounded like view of dance and ballet.
I really share that with you. Like, I wish there was more awareness from the public perspective on what exactly they can appreciate about art beyond, or ballet, beyond what they just see at face value. Because I think, frankly, that would change how well-funded companies are.
100%.
And that would tangibly change the lives of many dancers big time, especially in like medium to small size companies. Donations like really make a significant difference in these real people's lives.
They do. They really do. And then like now teaching dance too. I think a lot of the ways, like I love my teachers through and through, but there have been a lot of things that I've had to undo and make sure that I don't do in the studio, especially with young kids, because they are so impressionable and they are like sponges absorbing everything. And I think that ballet has a tendency to be very unforgiving and it can very easily become abusive, whether that's self-inflicted or inflicted by the teacher. And I think that that's something that I would also like to see different. It's just like that. I wish it was a more encouraging environment, because I've also just seen it too many times where a teacher thinks that there's a student who's prideful, so then they try to humble them and tear them down, when really the student wasn't feeling insecure and they kind of just overswung and became what appeared to be pride, but really it's because they're feeling insecure. So then for when someone comes in and says like, you should be ashamed and like push them down, it's heartbreaking, because really then that kid ends up appearing even more prideful and then feeling horrible. Like it's this never-ending cycle that I would really like to see different.
I agree with everything you've said so far. Like, first, creating a different culture around the subliminal or even overt messages that dancers get about basically you are replaceable. And that fear of being so replaceable actually causes dancers to push themselves far past their limits. And like in general, the industry is very led and motivated by fear. Fear is such a powerful emotion that I think that's partially why dancers are able to sacrifice and put themselves through so much. And it's not always for passion. It's for fear of losing this vision or this identity or this life that they've just become so invested in. And that's what's so dangerous. So what I would like to see change is really at a very basic level, and it was like the underlying factor of what you've mentioned, is just a challenging or a willingness to challenge and ask questions about that. Like, we'll start to break apart this common notion of, here's just how ballet is, and it will always be this way, and it's always going to be kind of old school in all these different ways. It doesn't have to be. And so I'm not really saying we need to change everything all at once. It's all bad. But like, if people were just willing, especially leaders and teachers were willing to ask questions about how we're doing what we're doing, I think as an industry would be more open to creating healthy changes. What value do you think ballet provides to the world?
I mean, I am a firm believer that, I mean, ballet is the most disciplined of dance. Like, I think of all the dance forms and dance styles. I mean, this is also probably personal opinion, but I mean,
we're biased.
I think it's the most disciplined. I mean, it requires the most time, it requires the most training, it requires the most sacrifice. It requires all these different aspects. And it's all because, I mean, I think everything within ballet, once you get to, like, through the discipline, you find the freedom. And through being that disciplined, you finally get to express these, like, big, broad concepts through dance. And that is something that I think is beautiful, is that within ballet, there is something for everyone. There is something, you can express every emotion, you can express every walk of life, you can express almost everything you experience through ballet. And I really firmly, like, I really do believe that. I think that's the beauty of it. And I think there's so much symbolism in ballet that relates to the outside world. I mean, like, even being away from ballet now, I still have like a dancer's mindset. Like, the way that I see things, I like see it in dance. I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, so that's why I think it offers the world an artistic way to look at life, and I think that that's something that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's something that I also just love about art, is that it's the greatest thing to shape culture and the greatest motivator. And I think that like through sharing that, we're able to make change. So I think that that's something that's very cool with ballet.
Yeah, I like what you bring up about sharing the emotions, because I do think that many other forms of art and dance can share that same spectrum of emotion. But what I think sets ballet apart in how disciplined you have to be to get to a certain level to actually be an artist, like what sets it apart from other disciplines is that it is so otherworldly to watch and so almost like inhuman what we're able to do with our bodies to create a really impactful emotional and visual experience. Like I think it just communicates to the human mind what is possible through hard work, through sacrifice, and what is possible through the drive that comes from passion. And so few people live their life with that level of passion or that willingness to live for something that is so worthwhile to them that they would do anything for it. That when someone who kind of lives in a way that maybe they've kind of lost hope, when they come and see ballet performances, it's like, wow, they're moved to maybe live in a more inspired way, or for some, like, kind of to remember a dream they had and think like, what if I went for it? In my opinion, ballet is, or live performing arts, it doesn't have to just be ballet. I think they provide so much value to our world that is so like instant gratification. Everything is on demand. To be sitting for 2 hours at a ballet performance requires you to be present. It requires you to, hopefully, if you're a good person, you've silenced your cell phone. And so you just sit there and appreciate this art, and you're so present with it. And even if that performance is filmed, you will never have that same experience of watching it again. Even if you watch the same show on the next night with the same cast.
It's always different.
It's always different. And so it's like a time capsule in our society that is just, we just think, oh, well, if I like something, I could just look it up again and watch it again. Yeah. And I think there's something so precious about having an experience like that.
And I think that's what makes it so much like life, is like, it never will be the same. And that's like the moments we live day to day. Like every moment, well, even if you do the same thing every day, it's going to be different every day. Like, you're never going to experience the same thing.
So in a way, like, even though ballet is so different from how people live their lives, like, it's also very symbolic of real life.
That's what I love about
a lot of our entertainment is not.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that got really deep. I love it. So what do you think dancers can do to find that balance of being self-aware without being self-absorbed? Because this is an issue.
That's a fine line.
Yeah, I know. It's an issue I see in a lot of dancers. I'm even like recovering from being honestly just a little bit too focused on myself. Yeah. And I noticed like I just kind of have this tendency to be so self-aware, and I used to think it was a good thing, but I'm like, honestly, I talk about myself a lot more than my friends talk about themselves, and that's like really humbling, and I feel like an arrogant mess.
Yeah, I relate. You're not the only one. No, I think it's a really fine line, being self-aware, being self-absorbed, because it is so easy to become self-absorbed, especially in something like dance, because you're literally, what you're producing is in yourself. Like, it's not like I'm writing, so I have a book, or I have like a physical object, so I made a painting, or I made a sculpture. This is something I created outside of myself. It's like, no, everything I created is within me. And that is me. And it is me.
It's so confusing.
It is. So like, that's what makes dance so different from other art forms, is it literally is self. And so this is a very fine line to walk. And so I'm still navigating this one too.
Oh, totally.
It's been like such an adjustment, but that's one of the reasons I like teaching, is because I get to pour into other people.
Oh my gosh, me too. It's been awesome.
Yeah, which is like so much more satisfying than being the dancer on the other side, where you're pouring into yourself, but you don't really need to pour any more into yourself. Yeah. And so it's been, I think, being self-aware is amazing. Everyone needs to be more self-aware, but in that self-awareness, not just focusing on yourself. Be self-aware that there are others around you, and that you have people in your life that also need attention and need to be told like they exist.
That's really wise. You can
Yeah.
be self-aware and use that self-awareness to purely benefit yourself, or you can be self-aware in your interactions with other people and use that self-awareness to see how your choices affect others around you. So it's not that being self-aware is automatically self-absorption.
Yeah.
It's how you use your awareness and like what intention you have behind that. So like in teaching dance, I mean, I would say to everybody, go teach, go
It's so different.
or like volunteer
It's
to
good.
perform at a nursing home, things like that. Do things where you see how your hard work can be used for more than your own gratification. And that will really change your relationship, I think, with self-awareness. How do you think it benefits a dancer to find a purpose for dancing that's beyond their own pleasure?
Ooh. And if you find a purpose that's greater than your own pleasure, then that's good. I mean, it changes everything because then it's not about you all the time. And I mean, it feels good to do things for other people and it feels good to pour into others. And it's a lot of the times more healing and more helpful and more fulfilling to pour into others. And so I think that like if you go beyond it just being for you and your own pleasure because it feels good, like for example, like dance for me like still feels good when I go and dance. Like I love dancing. Like it still feels good.
Yeah.
But it's so much more satisfying when I get to teach and when I get to share my knowledge with kids and they all get so excited over it too. And I just the benefit of it is just better well-being.
And probably more sustainability.
So much more sustainability.
Like I had a teacher who said that she would dedicate her Nutcracker seasons to like a specific person or group of people in her mind.
Aww.
And that really made me think like, yeah, if you're just doing this for you, who the heck would want to do Nutcracker 40 times?
Yeah.
Never. And so like there's definitely a point with dance like when it does not serve you. And so if you have a purpose beyond yourself, it really helps you to be diligent and do the work and like to show up as your best self every day, because like sometimes the work you have to put in and the choices you have to make to be your best self, if you were just going off of, well, I'm doing this because it feels good to me, like I wouldn't do a lot of wholesome things that I do. Whereas like if you think, okay, how do my choices affect my peers? The people I'm sharing a bar with, even having a purpose for uplifting the people around you or supporting them or the audience or like, I don't know, the world at large, which I think is like really silly when people think in such grandiose terms like that, as if the only purpose you can have is to change the world. Like, y'all, I don't think one person can change the world. Like, one step at a time, babies, you know? Like, but anyway, so I think, it's really freeing ultimately to find a purpose beyond your own gratification in dance. So explore that.
Intention set the atmosphere. And I think like that's what I mentioned before is that's what set the great dancers apart from other dancers is the intention.
Yes.
And I think that when the intention is outside of you, it ultimately is so much more pleasing for everyone.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I think every dancer who has a professional career, like they actually have to get to a point of finding purpose outside of themselves.
Yes.
Or you will burn out because again, like the work you have to put in does not serve you at a certain level.
It does not.
So
at all.
Explore that. And I think you'll really find some freedom in the discipline that you have to accomplish your goals.
Yes.
I'm so grateful that you took the time to share your thoughts and your wisdom. I'm sure that you guys who are still watching, you really enjoyed it too, just as much as I have. So thank you, Hannah.
Well, thank you.
And thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
I was going to say we will see you in the next video, but this is our third and final video for now.
Yeah. She'll see you in the next video.
I will see you. Thank you for watching. And adios. Bye.